Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, my son and I are heading to a place called Rangoli Gardens located in Jakkur, which is about 30 minutes from my house. It has excellent reviews on Google, so I thought I would check it out. It's essentially a village themed park and I'm pretty excited about it. As we are traveling, I decided to take a detour from the map. The GPS was showing a route through Hebbal, but given the current state of the Hebbal junction, which is always congested, I decided to avoid it. Instead, I took the Vidyaranapura Tinlu route, which turned out to be a great choice. On a Saturday morning, the traffic was light. After Tinlu, I took a right turn onto GKVK road, which as you know is much calmer compared to the Hebbal road. My plan was to reconnect near the Mall of Asia in Batranpura, but there was road work underway. They are concreting the road near the mall. This forced a detour and I ended up driving through some narrow streets before finally reconnecting near Batranpura. But all's well that ends well. I took a right into Jakkur and we finally made it to Rangoli Gardens. When it comes to parking, there is no issue at all. They have a well-organized parking area and I could already spot some school buses, which suggests this place is quite popular with kids. Since we arrived early, there weren't many cars, so I got a good spot. The parking fee was 50 rupees for a four-wheeler, and as we walked towards the entrance, we saw horse-drawn tongas ferrying excited school children. My son was thrilled to see them too. We followed the arrows to the ticket counter. There was a sign to the left, and after another right, we reached the counter. The ticketing process was super easy. They have QR codes everywhere, so no need for cash. I bought an adult ticket for 200 rupees and a child's ticket for 100 rupees, totaling 300 rupees. At the entrance, there are sculptures of goats grazing, which really set the mood. It's my son's first time exploring a village-themed park, and it's not something you see often in Bangalore, which is so modernized now. It's a great place to step back in time. As we entered, we were given wrist tags marking the official start of our visit to Rangoli Gardens. The whole setting feels authentic with life-size sculptures of village people. I was genuinely amazed by the level of detail. Everything looks well maintained. The first thing we saw was a traditional house setup with an elder and woman working in the house while kids played around. It was a replica of a Vokkaliga house, a community of farmers and cultivators from Mandya and neighboring districts in Karnataka. It's fascinating to see their house setup represented so realistically. Next, we came across a village doctor's clinic. A nurse or doctor was applying oil to a person's foot, and it seemed like a typical consultation in a village setting. Then, we came to a traditional village store, where the shopkeeper was handing out groceries with the help of an assistant. The setup was so nostalgic, with some kids and customers around, just like a real village store. Moving on, we discovered a tailor's shop, followed by a goldsmith's house. In the goldsmith's house, you could see him hitting the gold with some ornaments being crafted in the back. Next, we see a Bangalore house, easily recognizable by its traditional tiled roof. Inside, there's a new bride and groom, and the house is decorated with photos of gods reflecting the cultural and religious beliefs of Bangalore people. It's neat and quite beautiful. After that, we come across an accountant's house. The Kulkarni community is known for its expertise in banking and financial transactions. We see the accountant sitting at a desk, writing in his ledger, while people come to him for their accounts. It's a very well done setup. Then, we arrive at the village headman's house, which looks particularly interesting. There's a fierce looking dog sitting near the entrance, adding to the atmosphere. The village headman is seated with what I assume is his secretary, and there's even a rifle nearby. Very realistic. The headman has this intense, menacing look with a twirled mustache that adds to the effect. Inside, we can enter and get a closer look. As we move through his house, we see a cow shed with bulls with massive horns and cows being fed hay. Everything looks so neat. On the other side, we spot a newborn being placed in a cradle by the mother. Behind her, another lady is churning milk in the traditional way to make butter. There's also a small child being fed and another woman working in the kitchen. It's a lovely traditional scene that feels so authentic. We step outside and notice some kids playing in the outdoors, rolling tires on the street. How many of you remember doing that? It's nostalgic, and the pathways here are so well maintained, creating a pleasant atmosphere. Next, we come to a traditional village bathroom where a small child is being bathed. The entire scene feels very real, reminding me of village houses from my childhood. Then, we enter a roofed house, which is common in some rural villages. Inside, there's a small cow shed and a woman is milking a buffalo. It's rustic, with the cat lounging nearby, and it gives a real sense of how humans and animals coexisted in traditional village life. Moving on, we explore a few more houses, each with its own unique setup. The atmosphere here is peaceful and calm, and my heart feels lighter and my mind less frantic. There's a pinjar house next, where people make soft, comfortable beds using cotton. The cotton is beaten, placed in fabric, and stitched to create these beds. It's a very hands-on craft that's been preserved here. We then enter a weaver's house, where traditional weaving is taking place. The weaver uses a manual loom to create cloth with no mechanized machinery. It's very impressive to see this ancient craft in action. After that, we come to a rural tub house, designed to allow natural light and air to circulate freely. In the courtyard, an elderly woman is bathing a grandchild, while others are engaged in household chores and studies. It's a charming, realistic depiction of rural life. At the exit, we pass a few more houses, all of which are very impressive. One of the houses depicts an oil refinery where a bull is used to operate a press to extract oil from seeds. It's fascinating to see how oil was traditionally produced in villages. Next, we come to the shepherd's house, where wool from sheep is used to make blankets. There are lots of quilt here, and it's a cozy scene with a dog lying around and sheep in the yard. It's incredibly realistic and detailed. We also see a traditional postman delivering a telegram, which brings back memories of a time before instant messaging. These days, it's all Amazon couriers. As we move on, we see a dhobi's house where donkeys are carrying clothes to be washed and pressed. It's a great display of traditional laundry practices. There's also a toy maker's house with a small family creating and painting wooden toys, and a sculptor's house where a sculptor is etching his art onto stone. It's impressive how many different crafts are represented here. Then we visit a madar house where bamboo baskets are made. Next to it, we find a cane worker's home where they are crafting cane baskets. It's all very hands-on and authentic. We also come across a pottery house where clay pots are being made. It's fascinating to watch the pottery making process from mixing the clay to shaping the pots. It's another example of traditional craftsmanship being showcased in such a realistic way. Next, we visit a bangle house where women are preparing bangles. The bangles are placed on baskets ready to be sold. Nearby, a barber's house shows a customer holding a mirror as the barber does his job, showcasing the simplicity of a traditional barber's setup. We also see a carpenter's workshop where wooden furniture is being crafted. Adjacent to it is a blacksmith's area where hot metal is being worked on in a furnace, possibly creating swords and sickles. It's also authentic and detailed. Then we come across a Kodava house representing the community from Coorg. It's great to see how this park has captured the diversity of Karnataka's culture. After that, we arrive at a rural school where kids are sitting on the floor, raising their hands while the headmaster teaches them the Kannada alphabets. My son spent quite some time imagining what it would be like to be in that class. As we move out, we see a lady drawing water from a well with children playing nearby. It's such a peaceful scene. Wandering further, we discover a Lambani house where people are dressed in colorful traditional attire. Oh look, there's even a Peppa Pig family strolling through the outskirts, adding a touch of modern life to these traditional settings. Finally, we arrive at the section showcasing traditional farming methods. You can see people working the land, depicting the old ways of farming. One of the great things about this park is that the walking pathways are lined with trees everywhere, keeping the entire area shaded and cool, almost like a botanical garden. The sculptures of domestic animals, from cows to chicken, are so realistic. I'm really impressed by the level of detail and the skill of the artists who created these pieces. Next, we come to a bustling farmers' market where people are bartering goods. The realism of the scene is incredible. Each person looks distinct and the atmosphere is so authentic. We then see a cattle fair where cattle are on sale and buyers and sellers are haggling over prices. It's a lovely and vibrant scene, and I'm just so impressed with how every detail has been captured here. We are almost at the exit now, and we notice a sign advertising authentic North Karnataka food. There's a thali for 299 rupees, and they also have a kids thali. The menu looks promising, and we are definitely planning to try it out. So this is the canteen or restaurant area, and we'll be stopping by shortly. But before we head there, it's time for the horse-drawn Tonga ride. We paid 160 rupees for two, and let me tell you, these horses are fast. It was a bit nerve-wracking, but also a fun experience. I had to sit back to help maintain balance, but my son was loving it. It's a popular ride, especially for kids, and they're having a blast. Hopefully, this is one of those memories they will cherish for a long time. The ride lasted about 5 to 6 minutes, just a quick round of the campus, and then we were back. It was great fun, but now we are ready to check out more of the place. There's a child play area with some decent equipments, swings, slides, and all the usual playground fun. My son was especially excited about the swings as he's been asking to play on one for a while. Right next to the play area, there's a fish spa. I could see the fish swimming around, but I decided not to try it. I have seen a few worrying stories on social media about how this fish can cause infections, so we gave it a pass. It was around noon, but most of the stalls were still closed, so we moved on. However, there were some electric toy cars for the kids to drive around, and I could see a lot of school groups enjoying the picnic vibe. The kids were having turns jumping on an inflatable bouncy Mickey Mouse house, while the teachers were keeping an eye on them. Nearby, there was a little village shop stocked with items you'd expect to find in a rural setting, including tools for preparing traditional village delicacies. The place also had a castle house, which was a huge hit to the kids. They were all waiting for their turn to get inside, and my son was no exception. He also wanted to ride the electric scooter, so we paid 100 rupees for a 10-minute ride. He was so excited to drive it himself. There's also an option to remote control it, but he managed just fine on his own. He had a blast zooming around until he got bored and handed it back. Next, we came across a Kushti Akhada. So there was a crowd gathered to watch the wrestlers, and it was a lot of fun to see the sculptures of wrestlers in action. By this point, we were starting to get tired, so we took a break for some refreshments. I had a lime juice and my son went for an orange Minute Maid. We also grabbed a small popcorn which had a great flavor with just the right amount of salt and turmeric. Then we tried something new, a Shenga holige or a groundnut sweet flatbread. It was my first time and I wasn't sure what to expect, but it turned out to be delicious. The outer edges were a bit tough, but once I dipped it in ghee and ate the soft sweet center, it was amazing. My son and I gobbled it up in no time. After waiting for a while, it was finally time for lunch. The meals are served through a separate buffet section, but they were still setting up when we got there. By around 1 PM they started serving, and I noticed there's a nice Rachanahalli lake nearby that connects to the property. Now onto the buffet. The first round had some really yummy food, so let me walk you through it. They were jowar rotis, chapatis with a generous amount of butter, brinjal curry, green moong sabji, spring onions and methi palak leaves, though I didn't take those. We also had junka, khara chutney, shenga chutney pudi and agassi chutney pudi. Later, I went for a serving of white rice with sambar, another serving with rasam, and there was sweet paisa for dessert as well. We ended the meal with curd rice and they also gave us a 300 ml water bottle as well. The buffet system was decent, though it could have been managed a bit better. But honestly, I'm not complaining because the food was really good. After lunch, we decided to take another stroll. There's an auditorium where they host magic shows, but we were already pretty tired and headed towards the exit. On our way out, we saw a Kambala setup, which is a traditional sport from the Bangalore region. It would have been more immersive if they filled the water around the racers though. There were also sculptures of folk artists which were interesting to look at. Before leaving, my son wanted to have some fun, so we stopped by the giant inflatable Mickey Mouse castle. He enjoyed it so much. I stayed there for about 10-15 minutes while he burned off some energy. And I explored around a bit. I noticed they were setting up large bicycles with dual seats, probably for the evening crowd. It was kind of strange to see, but I think it's another fun activity for adults and kids to enjoy together. Overall, I was really impressed with this outing. It's definitely a great place to visit, especially if you want to introduce kids to rural culture and village life. It's something many of us grew up seeing, but nowadays we are so far removed from it, as most rural houses have modernized. It's really nice to revisit and experience this slower, simpler way of life. I found it nostalgic, and honestly I think I would prefer that kind of slow pace where there is no rush. If you're looking to experience a peaceful, culturally enriching environment, I would definitely recommend coming here. It's also an excellent spot to spend half a day with your family, especially with all the entertainment options for kids if they start getting bored of the sculptures. Plus, it's very affordable. My tip is to come early in the morning before the crowds arrive. Traffic is lighter and it's much more pleasant. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to support my channel. See you in the next one.